All right, looking at section 5.7, where we're going to use least common denominators from 5.6 to add and subtract unlike fractions. That's our learning target for today, be able to add and subtract unlike fractions. Remember, like fractions have a common denominator, unlike fractions do not have a common denominator, and so we have to make them common before adding the fractions together. So let's look at some examples, right? And this should be somewhat review. So the first thing I want to do is find what is the least common multiple, right? Or the least common denominator between 4 and 3. And I could start by saying, listing out 4, 8, 12. Okay, well then it's 3, 6, 9, 12. So I know that 12 is the common multiple between these, the least common multiple. So now I figure out, all right, what do I multiply 3 by? I multiply it by 4. And here I multiply this by 3. Because 3 times 4 gives me 12. 4 times 3 gives me 12. Now, for the numerators, 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 4 is 8. So 3 plus 8 gives me 11. Common denominator of 12. Okay, now you'll notice that essentially we took this denominator and multiplied over here, top and bottom, and I took this denominator, multiplied over here, top and bottom. And that's fine. You can do that every single time. However, you may have to reduce in the end. For example, all right, let's say that I didn't know that 24 was the common multiple between these two. I could simply say, okay, here this would be times 8, and then I'm going to take the 12 and multiply over here, both top and bottom, right? Our numbers are just going to be bigger, right? So 12 times 3 is 36. 12 times 8 is 96. Here, 12 times 8 will be 96. 7 times 8 is 56. So adding the tops, so that would be 92 over 96. And now I can reduce that, right? 2 goes in here 46 times. 2 goes in here 48 times. Okay, so even bigger. 2 goes in here 23 times. 2 goes in there 24 times. So then I end up with 23 over 24. So essentially I'd have to reduce it in the end. Okay. Or what I can do, let's back up here for a minute and find the least common denominator, right? So that was essentially what we're doing, is we're reducing it right at the beginning, and we're finding the least, so I don't have to reduce it at the end, meaning I know that 8 and 12, 24 is a multiple of that, and it's the least, right? And I do that by multiplying 12 by 2 and multiplying 8 by 3. So common denominator would be 24, right? Because 12 times 2 is 24 and 8 times 3 is 24. Now numerators, 3 times 3 is 9, plus 7 times 2 is 14, right? If I add 9 and 14, I get 23 over 24. Now, number 3 is with mixed numbers, right? Meaning I have a whole and then a fraction. Or I have a whole number with a fraction. So I'm going to turn that into an improper fraction first, right? And I do that. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 2 is 11. So that would be 11 over 9. And then I'm going to subtract 6 plus 1 is 7 over 3. Okay, so I know that 9 is the least common multiple, meaning that all I have to do is multiply this one fraction by 3 over 3. So this would stay 11 over 9 minus 7 times 3 is 21 over 9. So 11 minus 21. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that an addition problem. So I'm going to leave that 11. I'm going to go leave, change, opposite. Right, so these are opposite signs. So I'm going to subtract. 21 minus 11 is 10. This one's bigger and it's negative, so it's going to give me negative 10 over 9. So negative 10 over 9, that's a fine answer to have. Or if it wants to turn you into a mixed, it's going to be negative. 9 goes into 10 once. There's 1/9 left over. All right. See if you can. And this one was supposed to be 1 over 8. All right. See if you can solve 4, 5, and 6. So pause the video here and then come back and see how you did. All right, let's see how you did. In number 4, you could have multiplied this first fraction by 2, top and bottom. So it'd be 2/16 minus 5/16. Should have gotten negative 3/16. Here, you could have multiplied the second fraction by 3 to give you 21 as the common denominator. So you'd add 5 over 21 plus negative 18 over 21 will give you negative 13 over 21. Number 6. Okay, one way you could do it is you could turn it to top heavy, right? I could say that 6.5 is really 13 over 2, and 4 1/5 is 21 over 5. Get a common denominator of 10, so you multiply this fraction by 5 on top and bottom, by 2 on top and bottom for the other one. And you should end up with 107 over 10, or 10 7/10. Now, another way to look at it is, right, I don't want to confuse you more, but sometimes it's easier to do this, right? 6 and 4 is 10. And then all you would have to do is add to that 1/2 and 1/5, right? So you'd have 10 as your whole part. 1/2 would be 5/10, and 1/5 would be 2/10, right? 5 and 2 is 7. So we could arrive at that just by adding the whole numbers together and then adding these fractions together as well. Up to you how you decide to do that. If you have any questions, please let me know. Here is your practice for section 5-7. It's on page 235, numbers 12 to 17, 21, 22, 23, 25, and 33. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.